The Sikha we'll be learning is in the Sichas Chelik Tazayan, and it's under the heading of Yud Shvat. So the Rebbe starts like this: the Teichen von a Yortzeit von Yom Yistalkes von Atzadik, the Teichen, the contents of a Yortzeit, which is celebrating or whatever the date that, and years before that, the Tzadik passed away. Which when the Tzaddik passes away, Alter Rebbe says in the Geras HaKedesh in Tanya, then all his maisim, all his actions, all his Torah, all his Aveda that he did all his life come together. And then when it comes to the day of the Yortzeit, we remember what happened at the time of his Yortzeit. Is for uns beike, for us it's mainly, in other words, the Rebbe is going to say what is for us. For the Tzaddik himself, for sure, there are major kinyanim every year by the Yortzeit that happen to Neshama, great things. But for us, what is mainly the fact that we do the Yortzeit is mainly so we should contemplate, think about the maisim, the action and the Torah and the Aveda of the Baal HaYelula, of the one that this is his Yortzeit. In order we should take out the lesson for our daily life, everyone that follows in his footsteps, in Maisof, in the Maisim, Torah and the Aveda of the person. So we have to take lessons from the Maisim and the Torah of the Aveda from the Baal HaYelula to our Maisim and our Torah and our Aveda, the Aveda of the person. And that's what the end of a Yortzeit is, to remember his Istalkus when all his Maisim and Torah Aveda that he did all his life come together. So that's when these Inyonim are very strong. And the purpose for us is we should learn about it and take a lesson how we should behave in our Maisim, in our Torah, in our Aveda. Since by every Yid, the actions and the Torah and the Aveda that he did all his life is a lot. There's so many things every Yid does. Certainly by Anosi, certainly there are so many inyonim that he did in his lifetime. So therefore, sometimes it's hard to figure out what's in the Kudah, what's the point of what we are supposed to take out from his Aveda. In other words, what's the point of his Aveda? That should be the main thing that we should learn from it. But in our case, which is the Yortzeit, the Rebbe says, of the Frierdiker Rebbe, so here it's not hard to figure out, because here we have the clear lesson, the Torah, we have the Torah from the Baal HaYelula, from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the word Torah is Lashon Hiro. So the Torah that he had, that he gave us, is the Hiro to us, which is the Maimed B'Ramas Bosel, the Gani was the Rebbe Baal HaYelula, Aleinu Tarizikim to Zayn Yem Yistalkus. This is the Maimed Bosel, the Gani that the Rebbe Baal HaYelula himself gave it out to the day of his Yistalkus. Was from the Torah basement, in what says Dar Zayn, the Rikar is born in this Dream HaYelula Shalei. So if we learn that Torah, which he gave out, that'll teach us. From that we know what is the main thing that we have to be Mizbeina, think about, and concerning the aim in the Lula, and what we have to take along from here in our Aveda B'Peil. The Rebbe says like this. He's going to say what it says in the end of the Maimer and what it says in the beginning of the Maimer. Now, obviously, the end is important, because the end always brings out in the kud of the whole thing. The beginning is important. So we see something at the end and something in the beginning, and that's something we have to learn from. The end of the Maimer talks how it's important, the union of Zrizis, to be not wasting, doing everything fast and when you're supposed to do it. Because he says, it says in the Maimer, who knows his time? Who knows when his time is going to come to leave the world? It says in Medrash, when it comes a person's time to pass away, he's not the boss to say, wait, I have to make my cheshbenis and I have to go give the will to my family. Because when the time comes, the time comes. So you never know. So you always got to be doing everything right, because you never know, this might be your last moment. Was mit dem wird herausgebracht, from here comes out, as der Inyan as Rizos, Avedas Hashem is nicht nur a prat in der Aveda. Comes out from here that you have to have Zrizos, you have to do everything on time, right away, is not just a certain detail in Aveda. A lot of things you have to do. One of the things you have to do is Zrizos. Ukapashkas Maimer Chazal, like the simple taich of the Chazal, Eimach mitzvahs mitzvahs. You can't delay mitzvahs, which means it's a union that you shouldn't delay mitzvahs. No, that's not only that. But it's negated, it's a klolos aveda. I can verlieren the ganze Sach. It's negated klolos aveda, like it says here. If you're not on time and you delay it, and then your time chas v'sholem comes to leave the world, you missed out the whole point. When the Eroah Einod v'Shalit Leimer, and this lesson that a person is not in control to say, wait till I make my cheshbeinis, etc., is b'chol yem v'regef from kol meshach michayev v'yadom. It's every moment, every second of the person's life in this world. For all 120 years, you have this inyan. But maybe this inyan of Zrisis is negated to the whole Aveda. Noch mehr steht beremes in Maimer Azal now. There's more in beremes and hinted in that Maimer Azal. The lotion is there. You can't delay the mitzvahs. And it says, in Bos mitzvah liyotcho, if a mitzvah came to your hand, say it, do it right away. Shas melekt of the mitzvah, because if you put away the mitzvahs, you lay the mitzvahs. Where do we know this inyan that you should do the mitzvahs right away? From the pasuk it says, "Shmartem es hamatzos." You should watch the matzos. And the Chazal darshan that instead of the word matzah, we could read it "Shmartem es hamitzvahs." You should watch the mitzvahs. And the Gemara says, if you put it away, is ashtot u'shvartem es hamatzos. Instead that you're keeping the matzahs, which means it's a mitzvahs, betos chometz, heipach hamitzvah. Becomes chometz, which is the opposite of the mitzvah. Chometz is bad. Matzah is good and chometz is bad. So here's a remez that it's not just a small thing. You would think that if you're not the zrizus, so you missed out the senior of zrizus. You still have everything else. There's no. If you don't, there's a remez in this Maimer Chazal, it's like chometz. If you missed out the mitzvahs, if you lay the mitzvahs, it's like chometz. And chometz means that it's also as bad. So that's what it says in the end of the Maimer, that you have to be the zrizus. When in Tchilas HaMaimer eter, in what is darf sein die Aveda. Here is how the Aveda. In the end of the Maimer, it says how the Aveda, every Aveda that you do has to be done, is zrizus. The end of the Maimer is not how you do the Aveda. What is the Aveda that's supposed to be done? In welche Linie darf sein des Rizes? This Linie that we say you have to be des Rizes, in what Linie does it have to be? So it says, comes out from the end of the Maimer, in the beginning of the Maimer, in dem was nis ava kadosh baruch hu liyas leis baruch dire b'tachteinu, machana dire b'tachteinu. You have to be des Rizes in making a dwelling place for Hashem down here. And that's a special thing, special Aveda of making a dire leis baruch. So you have to be des Rizes, and what? To make a dir leis baruch tachteinu. But right away, everyone will ask me, in making every mitzvah you do is making a dir leis baruch. So the Rebbe continues, even though anything that the Yid does when in fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, not only mitzvahs, also when you use your own things, physical things, natural things, for the sake of Hashem. Means all your actions that you do for yourself, you eat, you drink, should be l'shem shemayim. All your ways, you should know Hashem. So anything that you do for Torah mitzvahs or for Hashem Shemayim and Chol Nechach Chodei, you're making a dwelling place for Hashem. And what Hashem wanted, Nisave means he desired to have a Dira B'Tachtenim. So any good thing you do, there is a Dira B'Tachtenim. So what are we saying here? That you have to zrises in the Aveda of making a Dira B'Tachtenim. So the Rebbe explains, it's aber verstandig, als die Hero in dem Inje von Nisaba Kadosh Baruch Leis Baruch Dire B'Tachteinu, was mit Aparnussen von Him Alula, but we have to understand the lesson that we take from this Nisaba Kadosh Baruch Leis Baruch Dire B'Tachteinu, that we have to take out from the day of Elul is nit nar aziro is kloli of klolos aveda b'teira mitzvah. It's not just telling you, make sure you do Dire B'Tachteinu, which means do Torah mitzvahs. It's a general like push, hischaskus, chizuk in Torah mitzvahs. There's something specific in this expression that you're making a dira leyes vara b'tachtenim. In welchen linien es darf sein der iker aveda sodom b'yamein elos. According to the Maimer, it comes out that the main aveda nowadays has to be this, making a dira leyes vara b'tachtenim as an aveda on its own. Masim to ma'isa v'tirosav avidose from the Bala Ilula, which would fit to the maisim and the Torah and Aveda of the Balalol, the Friedrich Rebbe. And the Rebbe will explain later that whatever he's going to explain in the meaning of Nisava, and that's our Aveda, because that was the Aveda from the Friedrich Rebbe. And on Yom Yortzad, Yom Hilula, we have to take the lesson from his Aveda, which here we see it in the Maimer of Basiligani, in the beginning and the end. The Abir was the Rebbe brings the Maimer. So this will be explained, and this is going to be a little bit hard in Yonim Chassidus, so just go through it as much as we can. He says in the Maimer, Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liyas Leis Baruch Dira B'Tachtainim, quotes the Lashon of the Medrash, the Davish that desired Liyas, and it says, Lei is Baruch, for him, he desired that for him you should make a Dira, a dwelling place, B'Tachtainim. Was in them Nisava and the Drei Pratim. In what he desired, we see three details here. Number one, Lo is Baruch, he wants you to make a Dira for him, who teaches what it means. Labas is for Eibishter, but he teaches what it means. Dira, it should be in the form of a dwelling place, of a house, place you live in. And the third thing, it should be betachtoinim. It should be in the lower levels, in the world, this world. What does that mean? So the Rebbe teaches, Lei is Borech, when you say to him, means the Dira is Latzmusa is Borech. You have to make a dwelling place for the Eibishter himself, the Atzmus. Nicht nur zu Madreges von Eides Vigilunim. We know that the Eibishter, we refer to Chassidus and Kabbalah as Atzmus. Atzmus comes from the word Etzem. Etzem is the essence. The Eibishter himself, that's the essence. Then the Eibishter made so that from him come out Eides Vigiluyim. Like we call it Eides Sof. And there's a whole Seder Ishtalshalis. First, afterwards came the Tzimtzum, and after the Tzimtzum came this Elam and that Elam and the Kav, and then came the Atik and Arich and Atzilus, and all the Elam until it came down to this lowest world of Elam Hazeh. All these are Madregas called Eiris Vigilun. These are Eiris, certain light, so to speak, that emanate from him. So there is the him, that's the etzem of the Eibishter, the Nekud of the Eibishter, which is the Nekud of everything, but that's the etzem. So when you make a dira, you have to make it, the point here is to him, for his etzem. And it should not be for Eiris Vigilunim, high levels of Kedusha and Gilu Ein and Sof. No, you have to have a mind for it. And Rebbe will explain exactly what that means. Second thing is dira. The Reif of Yatzmus is Baruch Gefindt sich Lamata. This that we say you have to bring down the etzem of the Eibishter. Down here has to be Nid Beif Narai. Not that should be in a temporary way. The Beif Shal Dira. Like a Dira. Dira means a place you live. A Dira means a place where you live permanently. So you have to bring down, you have to work on bringing down the etzem of the Eibishter permanently into what? B'Tachtainim. That's the third thing. The Dira Latzmus is Dafke B'Tachtainim Nid Beif Masalyanim. Where is there possible to be a Dira for the Eibishter? Dafke in Tachtainim in the lowest, not in the higher worlds. There you can't get that to have the etzem there. And the Rebbe continues. The drei inyonim zanetol is these three things depend on another. If we look at the level of Gilui Eir that comes from the etzem of the Eibishter, even if it's a very high level, Yibaldas Mitziyuson is nit me'atzmuson, and I'll explain it in a moment. Since their being is not from themselves, especially that they're only there because the Eibishter wanted. In other words, doesn't the etzem have to be there? The Eibishter decided he wants to be. Is nichayich was a drinya from dira kviyas. It can be that it's always. The real meaning of a dira means kviyas. Set means forever, eternal. Not only eternal, that's forever. Hayes mitziyusam is nitke mitziyas amitis mitzaratzman, since they're not a real mitziyas on their own, which means like this. The Eibishter, where it says Chassidus, is referred to as Mitziyusei Me'atzmosei. His Mitziyus came from what? Everything has a source. The Eibishter has no source. He is the source. His Mitziyus came from himself. What does that mean? That's an expression, but what does that mean? That the Eibishter, the etzem of the Eibishter, is the etzem of Mitziyus. This is the etzem of Mitziyus. This is what Mitziyus is. It doesn't need a source. We don't understand what that means. We don't understand how that is. But this is it. When you think of what's Mitziyus, what's existence, real existence, that's the Eibishter. Then you have from the Eibishter, the etzem comes out, Gilu Eir and different Madregas, different Eilmas comes out. They are not Mitziyus Amiatzmusam. It's not that they are the essence of Mitziyus, which is expressed in the Inyan that it comes from yourself. They don't come from themselves. They come from a higher Madrega. One Madrega of Eir comes from the higher Madrega of it. The higher Madrega comes. So Sofkosov, the highest Madrega of Eir comes from the etzem. And the etzem comes from nothing, from himself. This is the real Mitziyus. So the real Mitziyus means that's something that's always. If that's the etzem Mitziyus, the essential Mitziyus, that is always. That is what Mitziyus is. Mashenk and anything else is not always there. In other words, could be in time. If we're not going in time here, in Madrege, it's not the etzem Madrege. It could be that it's not. And especially the Rebbe says, it came because the Eibusha decided that he wants it to be. So it means it doesn't have to be be'etzem. It came berotzen. The Eibusha wanted it to be, it became. But in theory, Kviyachol, if he would not want it, it wouldn't be. But on himself, you don't say that. He is Be'etzem Deibishter. So that is the Kriyas. That Kriyas here doesn't mean just permanent, 100 years, not 5 years. It means Be'etzem. This is the Metzias forever. So since the Eiris Giluyim, their Mitzvah, the real Metzias, is not from themselves, so there is a level beyond them. They came from something. So it means that they're not the Kriyas. They're not Be'etzem there. And since it's Eir, and Eir means it's not the Etzem HaMetzias. If not the Etzem HaMetzias, there is a certain limitation or a certain description in what they are. It's something that's Etzem. Etzem is not a description. Etzem is, this is it. The Nekuda Atzem is, the point is not limited to anything. It's the Etzem and Nekuda. But if it's not the Etzem, then there is a certain Agdora what it is. Even in simple words, it's Eir, not Cheshech. By the Etzem of Deibishter, we don't say it's not Eir, it's Deibishter. It's Etzem, it's beyond anything. Eir is a certain Hagdora already, it's a certain level of Eir. He's moving as Eir Gilu is blazed dort for Shaychel Derinya from Akela to Gilu Lakus. So the Gilu of this Madregi of Eir, since it's limited to what it is, it could only come to a place which is a Kela, a vessel to accept such a Madregi. But in the low worlds, was a nit Kela to Lakus. That's not a vessel to godliness, like this physical world, not a vessel to godliness. So the Gilui of a Lakus can't come there because this Welt is a contradiction to the Gilui Lakus. They should have made it. But Lapel to say you could bring down Gilui Lakus in this world, Be'emes, you can't. But if you're looking about the Etzem of the Eibishter, I say it's not together Hell of a Gilui. He's not in the category of Hell and Gilui, could yet be, could not be. When he's Lamaila from Geder Hashanuyim and is beyond anything of changes. Since his Metzias is from himself, which means he is the Etzem HaMetzias. He's Amshachose in the Beif Masi Shaykha to Zog Namshach in Atzmus. So when you're Mamshach Atzmus, whatever it means to be Mamshach Atzmus, is Beif Mishal Diru Kviyas. So Etzem, when you're Mamshach Etzem, then it's Mikviyas, because if the Etzem comes, this is the Etzem is here, and the Etzem is something that's essential. And where can you have the Etzem only in Tachtoinim? The higher worlds, which are Giluyim, which is revelations, not the Etzem. They are lower than their levels of lower than the higher Madrege. Each level is lower than the Madrege higher in it. And the highest Madrege of Eir is lower than the Etzem. So all these elements, you can't be Mamshech Etzem. Now, Bechal how to be Mamshech Etzem, the Rebbe said, whatever eight in the Shaykh is Amshach with Etzem. But when you're Mamshech Etzem, it cannot be into the Umas Elyenin. Dafki in Tachteinu was this Nitod Derinya from Giluyim. Only down here, where there is no Giluy, it's a place of Helen. But here you could bring down the Etzem. Because if it's a place, Shaykh is to Giluy, then it's limited to Giluy. So you could bring down Giluyim. But the Etzem, which is beyond Giluy, come down. But a place where there's no Giluy, then you could bring down the Etzem. And we know this says Chassidus many times, and this is hard to explain, but certainly not in the 5 minutes on this shir. But we've learned Chassidus always that when you have Giluy, Giluy covers up on the Etzem. If you have Giluyim, it covers up on the Etzem. I always give a moshel, which is not a real moshel, but just to explain it. If you'd ask somebody about a certain person, is he frum or not? So the answer, you say, sure, it's a frumitty. Fine. Then sometimes you'll ask about a certain person, is he frum or not? Yeah, I know he puts on film. I know he keeps Shabbos. I know he eats kosher. Which one of the two do you think is really more frum? What do you could think? The first one, he didn't say anything. All he said is frum. Second one, he explained. He puts on film, keeps Shabbos, keeps kashrus. The fact that you went into Giluyim, into specifics, shows that he's not really, you can't consider him the real Frumid. A real Frumid is don't say a regular Frumid, you just say that's kosher. That's a Giluy, that's one of the Prat. Giluyim are a Prat, and the Prat doesn't express the Etzem. So if you go into Pratim, then that covers up a Etzem. You see the difference between a Chosid and not a Chosid. A Chosid will speak about the Rebbe, you'll write to the Rebbe, you write Kvei Kedushas Adonai Nemerein Rabbeinu. That's all Rebbe. Another person who's admirer of the Rebbe will write to them, write all the Giluyim. Who's better? The other guy, he wrote so many titles. The fact that he wrote titles, that's Giluyim. That's not the etzem. Rebbe is the etzem. I'm just using it as a moshel. So Giluyim cover up on etzem. So when you have Eilam Esilyanim, which are Giluy Lakus, that's not the etzem. And if it's not the etzem, you can't have the etzem there. But in the place where there's no Giluy, you don't do, like I said before, when you say this guy's from, you haven't got anything. You're just saying about that's the etzem. So that's why it says kol etzem is built in mischalik. You could have even in Gashmis things you have the Nakud of etzem. You have a piece of wood, you have the etzem of the wood, and you have the gilui of the wood. The gilui of the wood is the weight of it, the color of it, but the size of it. But the etzem is not limited to the color. The etzem is the Nakuda of it being wood. Remember Rabbi Jacobson used to use the words, the holzigkeit, the holz is wood, the holzig, the Nakuda of wood. So if you cut a piece of wood in half, you didn't touch the etzem, you touched the gilui, the size of the wood. Anyway, getting back here, so the Rebbe is medayik the word, what does he want? He wants you should be mamshech atzmus, the etzem deibishter. And where could you be and if you're mamshech the etzem, then it'll be dira. That's etzem is the etzem comes down. That's it. There's nothing limited, no time for it. This is what it is, so it's there. And this could only happen with tachtonim. If he said this has been the deibishter side, what we're mamshech through our aveda. If he says now we're trying to say not what your mamsha, we're trying to say that we learn out a lesson here, what we have to do. From this maimah, we learn out what we have to do to learn from the Rebbe. So he says, so from that, what we said before, we'll understand in Aveda. The Aveda tzemachle is bara dira v'tachtein. The Aveda, to do this, to accomplish lei is bara, and dira, and tachteinim, dar geton werden beifin kazev, as I masim to the dira latzmus is bara gemacht tachteinim. So therefore, we have to do an Aveda that should fit to these three things, to make it for etzem, the mamsh of the etzem, in the form of dira and in tachtenim. And explains how. Number one, leyes baruch, when you talk about being mamshech etzem, means the aveda that have and place leyes baruch. You have to do the aveda, that's not just a general thing, every mitzvah, and every good thing you do, you bring down, you make a dira devish. No, you have to do your aveda in the form of leyes baruch. As a you have to do an aveda. Seems like a high madregi, but the Rebbe says that in our generation, this is what we have to do. You have to know that you want, so the chuisfin should be accomplished, zayin rotz and Deibish's will. The nisave from Atzmusi is baruch. That a person, when he does Aveda, has to have a mind that he wants to do whatever he does right, every mitzvah or anything he does, learns Torah, should be in order to uisfin, to accomplish the Eibish's rotzen. Nit am nasal kalbapras. Not in order to get any reward for yourself. Afilu nitzuli ben dovik b'telakus. Not even if you do it not for a reward, but you know this will make you closer to the Eibishter. Or even to think that, I'm doing an Aveda, so I want to fear, I want to do the Eibishter's Kavana. That's not it. That's not etzem. There is also chuis in the Eibishter's nisave. It's not the Eibishter's Kavana. What the Eibishter wants, the Eibishter's desire, which is, so you have to do it in the form that nisave, so you have to do your Aveda only for the sake of the Eibishter. Since the Eibishter wanted it, not Kavana is already a purpose. No purpose. We don't care about purpose. This is what the Eibishter wanted. Forget about no purpose. If you do it for schar avadana, but even if you do it to fulfill the purpose that the Eibishter had, it's still not for the Eibishter himself. It's for some outcome that he wants. You have to do it for the Eibishter himself. The second thing, dira, the Aveda of Zayin Beibishal Kriyas. Dira, we said before, means that it's permanent. The Kriyas. So says, Nita the Rodam Eivid Shed Davidos in Shenoim. That the person that does the Aveda should not have changes, as they need in themselves to take it between this man that is not always with the same strength. But those Babais that the Aveda is not Beik Mishal Dira Kriyas. If you change, sometimes you have more, sometimes you less. It's not Dira. The Beif Nara, it's a temporary thing today. It's more tomorrow. So it has to be the Takeif always. And the third thing, the Tachteinim, the Aveda Darzayin Be'ikin and Yonim Tachteinim. Your Aveda has to be done mainly in low things. Saibenigei Teira, Saibenigei Mitzvahs. But there is Saibenigei Eden. Teira has to be with Tachteinim, and Rebbe will explain what's Pshat Tachteinim in Teira, and what's Taich Mitzvahs in Tachteinim in Mitzvahs, and Tachteinim in Yidden. And that's what it has to be. So from the Maimer we see we have to do it, let's say that the Eibishter's, not Kavanah, the Eibishter's Taiva, so to speak, should be fulfilled in a form that you do it constantly, and it should be done in Tachteinim. Seems like a very high Madrege. Well, I guess the Rebbe is talking in his Madrege. Nobody said it has to be for us. Und nicht die drei Nyonim Aveda Sodom sind abhängig in den Zweiten. And these three things in Aveda are connected also one to another. Just like he said, Lamaila, what you accomplish, the three things go together. That if it's Leih's Bara, then it's automatically Dira. Because if it's Etzem is always is there by Etzem, so it's Bikvias. And that could only be in Tachtenim. So they're all three together. It's not just three separate things. In the Aveda, we just said also the same way. When Avedose Shalodem is sein eigenem Metzias, if a person serves the Eibishter for his own Metzias, I feel it's a value Dovak Tzulukus, even if he wants to get connected to the Eibishter, which is a great thing. But he wants to get connected to the Eibishter. Or that I feel in the Hecher, that even higher Madirek, will Mekayim sei Rotzen Arbeiter. He wants to do the Eibishter's Rotzen, the Eibishter's will. Aber in sein Aveda is reingemischt, der Hergisch, als führt durch den Rotzen Hashem. But you feel, I am accomplishing the Eibishter's will. So there is the Hergish of me, the Yeshes. Then there could be changes. We said it should be in a form, no changes, like a Dira. So he said that's connected to the first thing. The first thing is you're doing it for the sake of the Eibishter. Because if you do it, anything that's a little bit mixed in you, it won't be a Dira. Then you can have Shinuyim. Masim to sein Hergish Avevat Vekas Beis Shah, depending on what closeness you feel to the Eibishter, what kind of Hergish love to the Eibishter you have. Say Nitken Kvias, then it's not Kvias. In other words, if it's you, so it depends on how I am. So today I'm in a better mood, tomorrow not such a good mood. Then it's not a Dira. Once you say the Achilik involves the Avedis. And also, if you do this, that you do it only for the purpose of the Eibishter himself. And B'meila, it's a Direk, comes in together with this, the third thing. As there's a difference, see in Yonim Nailim, what is Avedis? Is it the higher things, or the Yonim Tachtoinim, who are filtered into the Avedas Achayis of Tainak? If you do it because you're mixed into it, you'll only do things which are higher, which you enjoy more, a good enjoyment of Torah, of higher things, but you enjoy. But if the other way, if you're doing it not because you care about yourself at all, then you'll do it even if you have no Tainuk. Then you'll do it in Tachtoinim, even though you don't see anything. But if that's the Eibishter's Taivas, so that's what the Eibishter wants. Darf geben Avedose is Leih's Borach. Darf geben your Aved is to the Eibishter. Es soll sich Chuisfirn, the Eibishter's Kavone, the Eibishter's Kavone is Chuisfirn. But the way we said before, it's more than just the Kavone. The Nisabe, dann seinen alle Nyonim was firn zu der Shlome von der Kavone bei ihm gleich. So then anything that he does that will lead you to fulfill this Kavone is all the same. The male is ein Aved, the Beifishal Kvi is Bitmid, that's called it Bitmid. It's always. He does it always because whatever it is, he'll do it, even Tachtenim. Und wie bald als eine Save von Eibischen ist Lies, Bora, Dira Betachtenim, since the Eibish had the Taive to have a Dira in Tachtenim, is ein Aved, the Beikere in Tachtenim, so male you do in Tachtenim. Everything is the same, and since the Eibish says Taive is Tachtenim, so you do Tachtenim. So if you care only about the Eibish thing, whatever you do is Leih's Borach, when you care only about doing this for the Eibish thing, B'meila, you'll be that's Atzmus. And B'meila, it'll be something that's always the same. Because beside Etzem, there is no Shinuyim. And it'll be Dafkivet mainly B'tachpeinu, because that, is the Kavan of David. The Anogen now in the other dry protein, but an example goes about the Balei Lulalim. And the Rebbe says that these three things that we said now, we saw by the Balul, by the Friedrich Rebbe himself. Ki Yadua, Filmo Geret, it's known, as I said many times, in Aveda from Balei Lulalim, Arbotza Satei, V'chisa Gayadis, given ein Hemshech Mesiras Nefesh. That Aveda of the Friedrich Rebbe in spreading Torah and strengthening Yiddishkeit, it was one continuation of Mesiras Nefesh. A Colossian from the Balei Lulalim, and see, my Maimer, not like it says in the end, the Rebbe says at the end of the Maimer, L'mayla Metam Vadas. Mesiras Nefesh is beyond Tzevadas. But the Aveda from Mesiras Nefesh, weiß doch, as tut das nicht so lieb Scharuch Nikit. If you do Aveda Mesiras Nefesh, that shows you're not doing it for Schar, for reward, not even Ruchnisdik reward. Tzulub Shleimus Mitziyusei. So he should be a stronger, better Mitziyus. Afilu Nikedel Dafkabeis Baruch, even not in order to connect to Hashem. Your blaze Baruch. Mesiras Nefesh is when you give yourself the real Mesiras Nefesh. Sometimes people go on Mesiras Nefesh, not the real Mesiras Nefesh. It's not L'mayla Matam Vadas. You could give up your life with a reason. Some people, Rahman Chas V'Shalom, commit suicide. So L'chur also giving up their life because they think it'll be better for them if they're not alive. Some people give their lives up for a certain ideal because it's better for that ideal if he gives up his life. So that's all, and that's his ideal, so he wants to give up his life. Real Mesiras Nefesh is no reason for it. It's just because that's the Eibishter. The Eibishter wants it, that's how it's going to be. So that's Leih's Baruch. When sein eigener Metzias is in them Klal Mitod. Your own Metzias is not there. Befrat, main from the Eifen, yes, is given by the Balalula, and certainly if it was the way it was by the Friedrich Rebbe, Shehish Lechayev Mineged, that he's put his life on the line, Kipshute, not only Mesiris Nefesh, his Aveda was, he cared only about the Eibishter and he was ready to go Mesiris Nefesh. He put his life physically on the line. And that's the union of Leib. And the take away from Mesiris Nefesh by him given ständig kol Meshach on Nesius. And this Mesiris Nefesh was strong throughout all the years of his Nesius. But that's all kinds of Mesiris Nefesh. So that's the second thing. If you have Mesiris Nefesh, which is the Leib is Borech, then it's a Dira. Then the Dira means it's a Kviyas. It's set. It's always. So it's never didn't change. Whatever situation. The Red Baruch says, I spoke to Rebbe other times, the Chilik for the Drat Kufas from Nesashon, the Meshach Zayin Nesius Yoram Balmadin. That the Friedrich Rebbe in this world, Nesius was 30 years, 3 times 10, and each 10 years was a special Kufa, a special period, with different type of Mesiris Nefesh. 10 years in Russia, 10 years in Poland, 10 years in America. So the Rebbe explained, as in the Ale, Gor, Fashid, and Ifane Aveda, all these very different types of Aveda, the Im Given, there's Zelber taken from Mesiris Nefesh, the same Mesiris Nefesh. So Mesiris Nefesh is the Leis Borech, that you care only about the Eibishter, and B'meila it's in always the same, because Mesiris Nefesh is the Eibishter. So you got to do whichever situation it is. What's nice of them, but the Etzem Aveda Mesiris Nefesh, Dachnitkan Aveda Beifishalai. Besides the fact that Aveda Mesiris Nefesh is not something that is temporary. They're Kviyas B'li it's a Kviyas without changes. Yes, as the Avedis and says Etzem Anashama says besides the Union Mesiris Nefesh, when you do Mesiris Nefesh, it's connected to your Etzem of your Neshama. Etzem of your Neshama doesn't change. But Mele the Mesiris Nefesh never changes. So that's Bechlal, the Union of Mesiris Nefesh. But the Suz get taken the Meifin from Goli from Mesiris Nefesh. So normally we say a person does Mesiris Nefesh, that shows that that's an official Kviyas, it's always. But here you actually saw it with your eyes. As in the Aleph, Ashid and a certain Aveda, so you give it a Zilba taking Mesiris Nefesh. That all the different types of Aveda, you saw it, the same Mesiris Nefesh. He didn't care about himself, didn't care about anything, not to gain anything, only the Sabak of the Shborach, Liesle Yisborach. Ba'afapi, as Avot is Atayde, V'chizri Adas Arbet. These Avot Samenes are ihm gewendet von alle Gebieten. Now, he's going to go how it's connected to the third thing. So now we explained Leis Borech and Dira. Leis Borech is Mesiris Nefesh, Tetzem of Eibishter. Dira, it's always the same, but it's also connected to Tachteinim. So he says that even though the spreading of Torah and the strengthening of Yiddishkeit that he did, spreading Chassidus, by him given of alle Gebieten, because in all things that's true, in all ways. But never gesehen by him, but you saw something extra in number one, he made and he tried to make it, there should be shurim and there should be classes. How to put on film, how to do. Of Rabbanis, you should have Rabbanin. Made a Rabbanim. First of all, he wanted to set up that people should learn to become Rabbanim. What's a Rav? A Rav is to learn Poshet. Halacha l'maisa and to teach halacha l'maisa. He sent Rabbanim in Kilis and Mishavim. All for what? For halacha l'maisa, which is Tachteinim, which is Poshet Megashmi. Number 2, in the Rafotzef and Kiyim mitzvahs maisis vish yeder sugim. He spread mainly the union of doing mitzvahs maisis, physical mitzvahs. Maisa b'peil. And he did it through Maisa b'peil. Shikon shluchim, so boyim mikvoy, shikon mail in case he sent Poshet. So Maisa. He sent shluchim build mikvah, he sent shluchim to mail him. So he did things b'maiseh in order to accomplish mitzvahs maiseh. And the third thing, in the minyan for chinuch al taras hakedesh to take a Shabbos Rabbah, that he went to Mesiris Nefesh, and what he did, he worked with educating children al taras hakedesh in the proper kosher way of children. Miyasa zan chadorim to establish chadorim schools, shik malamdi to shik malamdi. But the al inyonim is b'chinas tachteinim and teirem mitzvahs gufa. All these things are called tachteinim in Torah mitzvahs gufa. Like the Rebbe said before, that you have tachteinim in Torah and in mitzvahs and in Yidden. So here we talked. He said this that we mentioned now is the lower level within Torah mitzvahs gufa. Kedel comment as the Rebbe will explain. Explains it like this. The asbor in them, the explanation is like this. In limud Torah zayadok amifan. When you learn Torah, there are many ways. There's the way you learn Torah in heaven. There's a Mesifta the Kushabricha called, a Mesifta the Rekia. So you have that very high level of Torah, learning Torah. These are gelernt lamato, till Compare that to when you learn Torah down here, it's a much lower level. That's a much higher level up there. And even in the way Torah is learned down here, many levels. Amongst them, the limud for Dreish V'Kal V'Schar, Yaakov Torah V'Yadi. Sometimes you learn not Negei L'Maaseh. Learn Posher to understand the svaras behind the Torah. So it says Dreish V'Kal V'Schar. Sometimes it says Yidarshan, which is not Negei L'Alocha, but you get Schar because you're learning Torah. Or it's a Yaakov Torah V'Yadi. You learn svaras in Torah, so you should be more in Yonim and Torah. And then limud, then you have a different limud, which is a lower madrege, to learn Poshet, to be able to come to a conclusion, to resolve a shaila, Poshet, that's called halacha l'maise. What we said just now is the difference we could refer to as el yanim, a higher level in learning Torah, and the tachtainim, the lower level of Torah. When the kochzach in the way from the limud yagal Torah v'yadeh, if you kochzach, you're involved very much in learning Torah, L'Shem, understanding the svaras, even not that, but you're not interested. That's not your point of bringing it l'alocha l'maisa. Is a bikif hakocht in the shakla v'tayri v'Torah. So mainly what you're doing is Torah. You're involved in the discussions of Torah. And what you care about, your life is in understanding Torah. Not saying it's chas v'shalom, a bad thing. That's good. When you learn Gemara, you learn any halacha, anything to figure out what the halacha is. Neat in the shakla v'tayr. So what are you involved in? Not so much in the understanding of Torah. To know what to do. So here we see that we have Elyanim in Torah and you have Tachtainim in Torah. The same thing when it comes to do mitzvahs, physical mitzvahs, you also have. Besides what we said before, mitzvahs, maisiyas, physical mitzvahs is called Tachtainim compared to learning. Is in the mitzvahs itself, you have the mitzvahs that is from the Torah perspective, and you have mitzvahs from the mitzvahs perspective. It says, when you learn the halachas of a korban, it's like you brought a korban. So it's a mitzvah, but it's a mitzvah in the level of Torah. So there are many times, like when you can't do the mitzvah actually b'peil, is menaisik b'teira from the mitzvah. You learn the Torah of the mitzvah. So l'chora, you're doing it, and that's part of the mitzvah. That at this point, that's the way you're going to do the mitzvah. If you learn about a korban, that's the way you bring in the korban. It's like you brought the korban. It's not the korban itself. The korban itself is the tachtainim of the mitzvah. The learning of the korban, which is also a prat in the mitzvah, that's aliyainim of the mitzvah. Then you have another prat in mitzvahs gufa. You have the kavanah of the mitzvah, the ma'aseh of the mitzvah. So when you have the kavanah, the intentions and what you have to think when you do the mitzvah, it's part of the mitzvah. But that's the elyonim part of the mitzvah, because that's not the physical part. Then you have the physical part. When the Beis Hamikdash was there, Ayid was at nitkin yidi and halachas karbonas. So Ayid went to bring a korban, who didn't even know any halach of karbonas. Nor if Allah sichaf and Kain makif a korban, he brought the korban, relied on the Kain to bring the korban, and on the Levi, but the Choned Levi did his job, and Yisrael but Mamada, they did their job. As a Mekayim the mitzvah, und the Mechiva Akrovas HaKavanah Sholov. So he's Mekayim the mitzvah, but he's Mekayim the mitzvah more in a physical way. The Pratis Yeser, and if you more in detail, the linear for Kima mitzvahs v'maises is Tachtainim. When you push it, when you do the mitzvah v'maises, the actual mitzvah, that's Tachtainim. Pushing, take a pair of film, a piece of leather, which is physical film, and you do a mitzvah, that's Tachtainim mitzvah. Legabadam dibur mitzvah. Then you have dibur of the mitzvah. Maybe when you put on film, you have to say Shema Yisrael. So that's already more unochmel. Legabad kavanah samitz machshava v'lev. Legabad the kavanah that you have when you saying put on film or any other mitzvah. So the ma'aseh b'peil is the tachtainim. The machshava b'lev, the machshava that you have in your heart, feeling, that's the elyonim. So that's the Rebbe said. We find this union of tachtainim, sign Torah, sign mitzvahs, and sign yidin. The same thing when you learn Torah, you have also these two things. The limit for Tanekah Shebes Rambam, when you learn with little children. Certainly when you start learning a limit from Aleph Beis, you learn Aleph Beis. That's the end of Tachtainim. You're learning with little kids. You're not learning deep in Yonim. It's very, very low level of learning. So that's called Tachtainim. If you learn Tifez Ach, that's already in Yonim. But we're talking here not about the Torah itself, talking about the Yidden. The people you're learning with, there's a Tachtainim in the learning with them, and there's Elyanim. Learning with people, big Lomdim is one thing, but learning with little children is other thing. Also ist verstandig, wie die Saskes in the Gimel, Prinnes Tachtenim Amuris. Now we'll understand that getting involved in these three types of Tachtenim we said before. Tachtenim between Teire Mitzvahs, and Tachtenim in Teire itself, and Tachtenim in Mitzvahs itself, and Tachtenim in people. When will a person do this? Get involved in all these Tachtenim Dafke. Not if you care about yourself. It's only if you care doing it just for Loyas Baruch, for Deibishter. The Shas is Metzias last if you're a Metzias for yourself, then what is the Iker Koch Chayes in Prinnes Elyon? If you care about yourself, what do you care about? What are you involved in? What's your Chayes? The Elyonim of Teire. The Seichel, the higher level, the understanding of Teire. Nochman the Meire Lekivas Lachten Teire, a higher level. You know that in Teire there's a godly light, and you want to get that light. It's very good. The Meile is a great to learn, and so with whom you learn? People who fit to that type of learning. Certainly, Chassidus and Pnimis in the secrets of Teire. When you learn Pnimis of Teire, so there you see how David Lakus is involved. So that gives you enjoyment. That's something that you want. If you care about what you're going to gain a lot. But if you learn in order just to come to Halacha L'Maaseh, well, there's an limit from Allah base when you learn just Allah base with little children, in them a person that cares about his gaining and Torah and gaining and connecting to Eibishter will not kochzach, will not be involved in it. As that them need the Reichkeit the Gillish means, he doesn't see the richness, so to speak. And the Gilui of the Eibishter's name doesn't see it. So that's when the Gei Torah. When it comes to mitzvahs, a person that cares for himself, what will be involved mainly? In the kavanah, the intentions of the mitzvah. Such a kavanah to connect yourself, again, yourself to the Eibishter. Not so much in the actual doing the mitzvah, which is doing what the Eibishter wants. But when you do the physical mitzvah, and you care, why are you doing it? Because you want to get connected to the Eibishter, so of you're doing it for yourself. But if you do it, Leis Baruch, Tafke, when sein Avede is Leis Baruch, Tafke, when you do it for the sake of the Eibishter himself, as also Chusfine Kavanah from the Eibishter, the Kavanah of the Eibishter should be fulfilled, then the Eibed Alein is not Kemetzias Lasme, the one that does this Avede is not any entity for himself. Demut is ein Avede Bikere in the Tachteine. What's he going to get involved more? In the Tachteine, which means learning with children, learning Halacha L'Maaseh. But Dafke al die 40 durch den Nisava Kadosh Baruch Leis Baruch Dire betachtenim. Dafke then is Leis Baruch and it's the Etzem and Etzem which is always there, but that happens through tachtenim. So this is what we have to learn from the Maimer Basiligani. That explains these three units. Nowadays everything has to be explained in simple words. To translate in simple words. Von die viele Jeros und alle dort zwei Jahre was Koveseno is geworden als Achlicious. Amongst the many Jeros that we have here, there are two inyonim, which is connected to what the Rebbe said before, that in our time, there's a weakness in it. The Ashter inyon is the first thing is limud halacha l'maaseh, learning pashat halacha l'maaseh. And the Rebbe explains himself. Yizata Beses Hashem is baruch is there limud ha'teire b'chlal heiluch misrabe. We see that Beses Hashem, that learning Torah becomes more and more nowadays. Quantity, quality, quantity and quality. But the limit in Anefim for Suki Shmaitz and Hilchas, to learn in order to figure out the halachas, as from them limits Aruskim Rabbanim was kind of Paskan and Ashayla and Aleph Schapiro, but to learn in a way that this will produce Rabbanim. Poshet will be able to Paskan the Ashayla in all of the sections of Shulchan Aruch. Certainly in the simple part, which is Terachayim, which is daily life, what you have to do is from generation to generation, from year to year, from month to month, it gets less and less. That we have less, we're training less Rabbanim, which is Megei La'alocha L'Maaseh. Tosas mekenet the din in Cheshem Mishpat. If someone doesn't know the din of Cheshem Mishpat, where it deals with monetary questions, things like that, the way the country is, we hope, if someone doesn't know special halacha that has to do with money matters, no big problem could come out. But when it comes to Even Ezer, which deals with marriages and divorce, Yeredeya, which deals with kashrus, Lachas kam become Benegeya Eirachayim, certainly the halachas of Eirachayim, which means the halachas are in the Geya Bepel Mamish. These halachas are actually in the Geya, not in Zmani Kavui, not only certain times. Not in talk, Teglich 11. It's in Geya to your daily life, Kishmei, as the Chelik is called Eirach Chaim, the way of life, that's your regular life. Nowadays, it's almost we have nobody to ask a shaila. Come to a person that spends most of his time learning. We ask him halacha, and he would answer. I'm learning Torah a lot, and I'm involved in pulling and giving all kinds of biurim in Torah, and bringing more light of Torah. True, but paskin adin hilchas birchas hanan, paskin adin in the halacha of making brachas or in hilchas tefillah or the hilchas krishma. The halachas hat didn't learn. He says, no, I didn't learn these halachas. So that's a problem, the Rebbe says. And again, it's Eirachayim is not feindik. When it comes to Eirachayim, to this part which deals with every bracha that you make and deals every davening and krishma and tefillah, is another problem. Neisel vazevas is feln hois rabbanim is on kenne pasken in the dinim. Besides that, we're missing rabbanim that should be able to pasken these halachas. Come to the sakon as jeder ein is a my pesach. There's a danger. Everyone would become a pesach. Everyone's going to pasken himself. Abalabos hasecha, you give a balabos, and he's a businessman. Nit kerov, not a rov. Eber is not as a Yerushalayim. If he's a Yerushalayim, that sich nit einreden, as ken allein pasken a shayling hilchas gitten. Never going to think to himself that I could pasken a shayling hilchas gitten. I feel nit a shayling yeredeya, not even yeredeya, which deals with kashrus. And it's macht away my shayle, but the uzach my rov made a rov apel. So if he has a shayling, he's going to find a rov. Someone will pass. Shaking nerachayim. Sometimes he could convince himself that, yeah, I could pass myself. If Lashon Kodesh in Hebrew, when they versteht in Lashon Kodesh, if English translation, if not, he doesn't understand Lashon Kodesh. You look into the English version or the French version, und ton wie bei ihm kommt durch the Pshat Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. And do the way he understands the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Eben der geht zu Shulchan Aruch von Bes Yosef, wenn der ganze Shakel Vatari, wie man kennt, der Pasken, Alocha, nicht wissen, die Kodesh zu timing. Concerning the Shulchan Aruch of the Bes Yosef, the real Shulchan Aruch, there's a whole discussion if you're allowed to pasken from the Shulchan Aruch without going into the sources and the reasons for the halachas. Versteht mich schön, wie was es kenner rauskommen der Fumes gibt auf der Teil der Shulchan. That's even when you learn the Shulchan Aruch, the real Shulchan Aruch. But certainly if it's going to go into the hands of every single person, as there's allein pasken for Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Shulchan Aruch, it's going to be terrible. And in them, darf sein der Bachayit in Leib. And if this is supposed to be the fact that the living should take to heart, from what? From the one that passed away from the Friedrich Rebbe, from the Aveda from Balei Lula, what the Friedrich Rebbe did, was hat sich eingestellt, viele, wenn es ist gewähnt, verbunden mit Zakonis and Foshas Mamish, he put his life on the line, even when it was Mamish, his life was in danger, to Miyasa sein, das was wert, dies der angerufen, Bote Medishel Rabbonim. He tried to be Miyasa, worked on being Miyasa, establishing yeshivas to train Rabbonim. So, what's the Chayit in Leib? What do we have to take from that? We take the lesson. The Allah was ein Aruim, was all those that fit to this. Now, if you Leib, the suffix is ein Aruim, is when the Matzav is Itzter, and even if there's it's not clear if he fits to this. But the way the situation is now, you have to go to Chumrah, and you have to do it. So, learning and people should learn in Torah to bring it down to Allah L'Mais. The Schus is going to help the public, will help them. The fact that this is engaged not to a rabbi from Einstein, especially it's engaged not only to a lot of people in one city and like the matzah behavior, where things are now, that's engaged to 100 tequilas, not to Sabris and other lenders, engaged to hundreds of communities in America, in other countries. That they have no rabbanim who pasken in Shulchan Aruch. While there is 100 meshavim in Eretz HaKodesh, same thing, hundreds of settlements in Eretz Yisrael, which is Eretz Asher Ein Hashem Lekech B'Meshon V'Atach the eyes of Hashem are there a whole year. So mit Rabboni, have no Rabboni. As it says, Zayin Siayte D'Shmaya V'Chem Darv Homet M'Chav Zayin Loch. If you work on this, Hashem will help you that you shall pasken the right psak. So Zayin Don Din Emes Lamita, you should pasken the Din in truth. But durch them vet Nashuta B'Kadosh Baruch Hu. My separation, it says in Gemara that when a person paskens a Din Be'emes, he becomes a partner to David in the creation. So that's one Nakuda, which is negated to what you said before, Tachtoinim, the Iker Halacha Lamaisa, we have to work on that. The zweite Nakuda was in Gebe Fraten Heintiket Kufe, the second thing that we said before in Tachtoinim is when you teach children, small children, not big bachim with the Tifin Yonim. So what is it? It's a Dichuki Amdina from Medina Zuv, based on the laws of this country and other countries similar. There's a terrible situation. She's angestellt geworden als a kind. It became like this, a child. Nicht nur aber Chomish Lemikra. There are viele älter from Ben Nesser Lemishne, Ben Gimel Lemitzvah, and Chomish Es Legemore. By a child, not only if he's 5, which it says 5 should learn the Chumash, not only he's older, he's 10, but learns Mishnah, and 13 mitzvahs, and he's 15 to Gemore. Can you do it in talk for Shnas, V'yimei HaMelamudim? Every day, these children learn secular studies. Now, them that I wish them the hero for the Bala Yelulu, we have to take out the lesson from the Friedrich Rebbe. So that sich Meisen Nefesh given Bepel, he actually put his life on the line. Und geschickt andere Jiden auf Mesiras Nefesh. He sent other Jiden auf Mesiras Nefesh zu einstellen Chadorim für jüdische Kinder, to establish schools for jüdische Kinder, as their limud in the Chadorim soll sein Altaras HaKedesh. They should learn it, Altaras HaKedesh in the holy way. Und nicht meshane sein Chas v'sholom derke Chinuch, wie seine gewähnt eingeführt bei Jiden Mesh Kaladeres. Not to change the Seder of Chinuch, like it was all these generations by Yidden. So certainly in these days, when their Medina case, in this country or similar, was is nit chas v'sholom matzah from sakana v'gul. By Friedrich Rebbe did it when there was a danger for his life. Now there's no danger. Now from Legen, the greste Stadlis, you have to put the greatest work. The Kinder von jüdische Kinder sollen einen ganzen Altaras HaKedesh, that the children should learn Altaras HaKedesh, not to mix in any secular studies. Nor but the Chok lost nicht Kemeglichkeit to nicht learn, but if the law is that it's impossible not to learn it, it's the only time, but not we should do more than that. Or more in their comments, and also in that amount that the law is, and only that, but and nothing more. Now we really shouldn't learn anything, but if you have to, it should be the minimum. So and then the Rebbe says, even those people who can't overcome this nisoyin, this test, is over their emes as the kama v'kama fanim kem yitzay mit haprache v'prat and in afanem achikodim. That even if you want to send it, you have to send your children. You could many ways that you could yitzay with a small detail, and in a small way. See, the gamrik and hechach is not you don't have to. The mudachel sein in the kamas veiches wie sie sein in each reingeführt in Gottes Sefer. You don't have to, according to the law, to learn secular studies the way it's done in the schools, which is under the administration of men or women, Yerushalayim. And even there, they learn secular studies, but you could say because they have to, but it's not the minimum. They learn more than the law requires. You have to awaken them, and you have to strengthen them. What should they try? Main work should not be tried to see to do what the laws of the country is. They should do the laws of the Eibishter. Like that, we are sworn and we accepted already by Harsina. This comes before the laws of the country. So don't worry so much about the laws of the country. Care about the laws of the Eibishter. Even though the law of a country is a law apitator. Besides the fact, when it comes to Yiddishkeit, nobody could give us an opinion. That's a lotion that Friedrich Rebbe said, in the name of his father, the Rebbe Rashab. Even somebody who can't withstand this test and learn only the Mudar Kedesh, only Torah studies. So within the framework that the laws of the country allow, darf sein die Stadlis als mehr Zeit für die Talmiden und Talmides, es kann mehr Simas Leib sein verbunden mit dem Mudar Kedesh. That most time should be given to the Talmidim and Talmides in the Mudar Kedesh, in holy studies, and certainly the attention should be given more to this Torah studies rather than to the secular studies. Blaze das was is mochrech l'chol adeyes abgeben von Mudar Kedesh. Only what's a must. L'chol adeyes means according to everybody, there's no choice. That is the amount you should give over to secular studies. Das ist nicht zu up zu dem, das Lernen von Mudar Kedesh soll nicht sein eingeführt, from sein in der Free B'tchilas Alim und Reishis Azir Seichem. And certainly, that's for sure, that if you do, whatever you do learn in Lamud Chayil, second the study should not be the beginning of the day. Beginning of the day is called Reishis Haris Seichem. It's a Lashon by Challah that you have to take off the first from the dough. Arisa means a dough, but Arisa also has the meaning of a crib, of a bed. Reishis Haris Seichem is the beginning of you waking up from bed. So that should be the Lamud Kodesh. I said the Gamre nit neged achok. It's not against the law at all. As Reishis Haris Seichem so zayin terim trum Hashem. But the first thing that you should do is just like it says by Challah, the first thing goes to the Eibishter, the first piece of dough goes to the Eibishter. It's not against the law that your first learning should go to Torah. There's a lufa even them kin to Eibishter, and the Lashon there it says, it's Torim Truma, pick up Truma. So the Rabbi uses the Lashon to pick up the children to Hashem, by learning the Torah. And only later, the child is their kind, and the child is already tired. You have no choice. Then you give a time, whatever you want, for learning secular studies. Since David says in Medrash, David says, I'm only asking them something that they could do. So it's for sure. If you try even a little bit, and you put the proper attention to this, you could minimize the time that Yiddish kinder learn secular studies. And you give much more time, quality and quantity, much more to learn the Limud Kodesh. The only time it will work if you decide, you know that this is a must. Because that's what the Paschal is in. And if you really know that this is a must, then we'll have a border, so for sure we'll be able to accomplish it. Just to be said by the Friedrich Rebbe. And nicht gucken, ich auf dem, was bei Jomel, was ich nie gesehen kann, nur ich sicher durch die Derech HaTeva, als eine Status im Chinuch, als ich nicht nicht so matzlich sein. Just like when the Friedrich Rebbe did what he did, he went on Mesiras Nefesh for the Chinuch, Altaras HaKedesh in Russia, there was no way in Derech HaTeva that we could see naturally that he'll be successful. Zetman needs to repay us from the Rishtadlis bein the Busser. So now physically we see the results, the fruits of the labor that he did then, even though then they didn't believe it's going to happen. And the gate Arois in Gas in the greatest Shtet, and that's now we see it's all a hemshech to what he did in Russia and in America. When he came to America, this Chinuch Altaras HaKedesh wasn't there. He pushed it, went to Mesiras Nefesh, said other, and now we see as a result, you go on the street in the big cities in America or the Ergetz Andish or someplace else, with treft. Einiglach, was Stamme von Eltern, was eine gewähnt mit 20 or 40 Jahren. You see children from parents that were Russia 20 or 40 years ago, and you see that the grandson is going in the derech of Torah and mitzvahs. And the question is, how were we able to hold Yiddishkeit? If you do some research, you'll find out their father, that these children's father, sein madrich, or his educator, or the sein zeidich, or his grandfather, etc. That their parents and the grandparents had some connection to at least a shliach of the Friedrich Rebbe. Which awakened him and told him about Yiddishkeit, not gelernt mit him and learned with him, not sich behalten mit him zusammen auf dem Bedim, that hid with him together in the attic, or in a keller on the cellar to learn. So in other words, all the people now who are their grandchildren from those before, and it's all because of what the Friedrich Rebbe did. Sein Shluchim, etc. And their fathers are geblieben by Yiddishkeit, and that's why he stayed by Yiddishkeit. Now, there is by the Alavas Hilchim, but the case of Netzach Salavoy, same thing, old people who follow the derech of the Friedrich Rebbe, as dur der Ishtadlis in der Aveda now, by working hard, and this Aveda from Chazak Zayin Chinuch Altaras HaKedesh, to work on strengthening the education, Altaras HaKedesh, in the proper way, only a holy way, that Nezicha Matzliach Zayin Tzufshel, the Tzivas Hashem, will be Matzliach, successful, to raise the Tzivas Hashem, the army of Hashem, the soldiers of Hashem, the court of Mamash Aruz Givim Golas Achra, that will soon go out of this last Golas, in the Gula Amit Israel Shlema, the real and true Golas, complete Golas from Mashiach Tzidkenu, by Golas Titan, and very soon in our times.